Ben Sulayem has recently faced significant backlash from Lewis Hamilton and George Russell over the proposed changes in Appendix B, which were hinted at by the FIA president himself. It appears the drivers have little to no faith that these changes will ever be implemented. To them, it's all talk and no action, a perception that's putting even more pressure on Ben Sulayem to hold on to his position. But is speaking out enough for Russell and Hamilton to reinforce the driver's position against Ben Sulayem? More importantly, where does this leave him within the broader framework of motorsport's governing body? Let's be honest. The drivers are in full-on frustration mode with Ben Sulayem, and they made that crystal clear in a recent press conference. This session focused on potential upcoming changes to Appendix B, particularly around the enforcement of swearing regulations. F1 drivers have been vocal in stating that this type of rule meddling is unacceptable coming from the president of the FIA. Sulayem now finds himself under intense scrutiny, and the timing couldn't be worse, just as he prepares to defend his presidency at the end of the year in front of the board. In response to the criticism, he stated, "Following constructive feedback from drivers across our 7 FIA World Championships, I am considering making improvements to Appendix B. As a former rally driver, I understand the demands they face better than most. Appendix B is a key part of the International Sporting Code and is central in keeping the sport accessible for all our sporting family. Humans make the rules, and humans can improve the rules. This principle of continuous improvement is something I've always believed in and is at the heart of all we do at the FIA." Unfortunately, many disagree with him. Former members of the FIA have voiced their disapproval of Sulayem's leadership. In fact, that's why some of them left. Among them are Robert Reid, former FIA vice president, and David Richards, former chairman of Motorsport UK. Both resigned after being denied access to a meeting where they refused to sign a non-disclosure agreement, NDA. That very meeting involved the vote on a mandatory 2-stop rule for the Monaco Grand Prix, a decision that seriously calls into question the FIA's transparency. Both Hamilton and Russell have recently questioned the FIA's integrity when it comes to actually putting these proposed changes into effect. Hamilton, a longtime critic of Sulayem, didn't hold back. The 7-time world champion said, "Ultimately, we don't hold a power seat at the table, and that needs to change in my opinion. People are making decisions for others who have never been in that position. It's good to have the point of view from the driver's perspective, and that's all we try to give." This isn't the first time Hamilton has clashed with the FIA president. Back in 2022, when the infamous jewelry ban was introduced, Hamilton arrived at the Miami GP wearing as much jewelry as he could, a direct protest against the FIA's overreach. He was also seen blatantly ignoring Sulayem during a conversation attempt in Jeddah. His stance hasn't changed, and the lack of respect for the FIA president is evident. Hamilton's words carry weight because we're now in a troubling period where drivers seem to have no real voice in the sport they compete in. Sure, there's the gpda, Grand Prix Drivers Association, led by former driver Alex Wirtz and current driver George Russell. But when it comes to critical decisions from the governing body, all they can do is suggest things publicly. Russell has been especially vocal about this lack of input, calling for the GPDA to have a larger role in the FIA's voting processes. When it comes to the Appendix B changes, the Mercedes driver is clearly skeptical. He's been hearing about updates for a long time, but hasn't seen any of them actually put into action. Russell said, "We want to see these things put into action rather than just hearing, 'We're considering things.' We all consider a lot of things. We are clear. We want changes. That's the core issue. Words mean nothing if there's no follow-through. The real problem is that F1 drivers and the FIA seem completely out of sync. The drivers know better than anyone how tough it is to navigate the sport under the current rulebook. They can't swear. They can't criticize a steward's decision or even bruise someone's ego without risking a penalty. Following constructive feedback from drivers across our 7 FIA World Championships, I am considering making improvements to Appendix B. As a former rally driver, I understand the demands they face better than most. Appendix B is a key part of the International Sporting Code and is central to keeping the sport accessible for all our sporting family. Humans make the rules, and humans can improve the rules. This principle of continuous improvement is something I've always believed in and is at the heart of all we do at the FIA. Unfortunately, not everyone agrees with Ben Sulayem. Former members of the FIA have stated clearly that they do not support him. This is one of the primary reasons why some left the FIA, including Robert Reid and David Richards. Reid was the former vice president of the FIA, and Richards was the chairman of Motorsport UK. Both decided to leave after being excluded from a meeting because they refused to sign an NDA. The same meeting saw the vote for a mandatory two-stop rule for the Monaco GP, raising serious concerns about transparency. Recently, both Hamilton and Russell have publicly questioned the integrity of the governing body when it comes to implementing real change. Hamilton, who has long had a contentious relationship with Ben Sulayem, stated, "Ultimately, we don't hold a power seat at the table, and that needs to change, in my opinion. People are making decisions for others without ever being in that position. It's good to have the point of view from the driver's perspective, and that's all we try to give." This statement comes after Hamilton's previous clashes with Ben Sulayem, particularly over the proposed jewelry ban. In protest, Hamilton showed up to the 2022 Miami GP wearing as much jewelry as possible to mock the FIA's politics. He was also seen walking past Ben Sulayem in Jeddah while the president tried to speak with him. A clear sign that Hamilton still has no respect for the current FIA president, and that doesn't seem likely to change anytime soon.